Technology and human relationships. So technology has done some pretty cool things, and for a lot of our daily tasks, we can say thanks technology. We can communicate instantaneously, make purchases with the click of a mouse, share data in a variety of different ways, and we're no longer as constrained by distance. Technology is all about convenience and efficiency, and it certainly spares us from some meaningless tasks. But here's the problem. This fascination with convenience and efficiency translates into areas it doesn't really belong. We moved it into relationships. And human relationships don't blend well with conveniency or efficiency, yet we allow them to take precedency here. By replacing face-to-face interactions with screen-to-screen and actually prioritizing this type of communication, we're making some serious trade-offs. Depth for instant gratification, friendship for personalization, authenticity for connectivity, and intimacy for a facade of safety. MIT professor Sherry Turkle in her book Alone Together, Why We Expect More from Technology and Less from Each Other, explores some of these topics, and through her in-depth research, discusses the consequences of these trade-offs. Here's trade-off number 1, instant gratification for depth. Turkle warns, all matters, some delicate, some not, are crammed into a medium that quickly communicates a state, but is not well suited for an opening dialogue about the complexity of feelings. I can count the number of times on my hand that I've had serious conversations through text, and all of them were uncomfortable. First off, you don't want to be that person that's writing text at essay-sized proportions, but you fear if you don't fully explain yourself, your point will be misunderstood. Texting also doesn't allow voice inflection, or tone, or facial expressions. The closest thing we have are emojis, which can hardly be compared to the complexity of human expressions. Throughout this discussion of control and instant gratification is the theme of me. What gives me the most pleasure? How can I have the most control over this relationship? This personalization is taking the place over selfless friendship. This is trade-off number 2. We desire connection, yet the connectivity the internet and texting gives does not satisfy this desire. It's actually making it worse. In fact, the University of Michigan, in their 2010 analysis of 14,000 college students spanning over across 30 years, shows that young people today care even less about empathy and interest in others. The authors of the study blame online games and social networking for the decline. Turkle adds, one might say that absorbed in those that they have friended, children lose interest in friendship. Why would we care about an individual when we can place convenience and pleasure as our priorities? I find it ironic that the technology that promises we will never be alone is actually multiplying loneliness and building bigger walls to real empathy, intimacy, and love. Speaking of never being alone, technology breeds an obsession with connectivity, and with it we're losing authenticity. This is trade-off number 3. Turkle suggests technology impedes internal reflection, saying, they, teenagers, need time to think, but technology put in the service of always-on communication and telegraphic speed and brevity has changed the rules of engagement with all of this. Where is downtime? Where is stillness? There's a certain satisfaction that comes along with knowing who one is, where one fits in the world, and that's a deep fulfillment, which requires some disconnection for a surface-level feeling of pleasure. The pleasure of technology is not a complicated idea. You want to feel companionship? Join an online chat room, or buy a robotic seal that reacts to your emotions. You want to avoid loneliness? Text, email, or tweet at your friends. Not to mention, this connectivity gives you the power to create your image, which arguably is not authentically you. Technology allows us to keep a safe distance behind screens and from each other, where we can ideally avoid hurt, or a facade of safety. But with this, we're giving up intimacy. This is trade-off number 4. It's no surprise when we shut others out. We are well aware of what's at risk when we love, care, and deeply share and invest in each other. Researcher Brene Brown, in her TED Talk about vulnerability, explains, when you ask people about love, they tell you about heartbreak. When you ask people about belonging, they'll tell you about the most excruciating experiences of being excluded. And when you ask people about connection, the stories they told her were about disconnection. And the risk is real pain. We aren't promised a cheesy happy ending if we're only brave enough to take the chance. Unfortunately, life doesn't follow the same rules as a Disney movie. Technology has made it easier for us to distance ourselves from the raw, nitty-gritty of relationships by giving us a facade of being involved in others. We decide whether their text or call remains silent or heard, but we can't control if they will love us or hurt us. Technology doesn't always reward us with positive reinforcements, but it does allow us to shut it off when we receive feedback we don't like. In-person relationships require a greater risk because they're embedded in our lives. But here's the point. Letting go of control of our desire for instant gratification and instead being authentic and vulnerable is risky. And it might hurt. Actually, I can almost guarantee it will at some point. But taking the chance to be hurt reminds us that we're fragile beings and that we're alive. When we become distant from each other through technology and hide this hurt, we're missing out on sharing something that makes us all human. So here's my challenge for you. Text, email, use social media. But at the end of the day, make sure you take the chance to be human. People are worth the risk.